And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And in that studio, we have Sheriff Jim Allard. Welcome back.
Well, hey, thanks for having me again, Frank.
It's
a beautiful day in Steuben County.
You made me nervous that you were going to forget, but it really
goodness.
is a beautiful day, isn't it?
It is. It's gorgeous. The whole week.
Yeah, you can't beat it.
The whole week has been phenomenal.
We had a question from a viewer, and I don't think it was a question for me. I think it was for you. Is there any chance that the illegally fired COs will get reinstated?
Well, as a matter of fact, Monday we're swearing in 8 of them.
That's great.
And starting them, actually, we're starting them Monday, swearing them in Wednesday. And we're doing an employee appreciation luncheon. Myself and Captain Mills will be
that's great.
Putting our aprons on and
you're
cooking
cooking
pizzas. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're doing that Wednesday. Wednesday's when we're swearing them all in.
That's great.
And so we're going to provide lunch for all of our employees. Prior to that, we do that about every other month throughout the year, try to.
So their first day on the job is a pizza party?
Yeah. How's that sound? A little bit different than what they're used to, I think.
Yeah, that's for sure. Except for when they were striking.
Yeah.
When the support of the community came out, they're probably...
They were having lots of pizza parties.
They're on diets now, I'm sure. But how'd that whole process go? Has there been any pushback from the state?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the state's been very difficult to get their records from for personnel. And they still show as certified peace officers in the peace officer registry. And I think that threat from the governor that they were going to be decertified, unfortunately for the governor, fortunately for the COs, there's a process for decertification. I can't just say I'm having a temper tantrum and you're decertified.
That's what it felt like too.
Yeah. They have to show gross misconduct, and a lot of these folks, we're hiring one that was off due to an injury when the strike occurred and still got told to come back or get fired.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear stories of that all over the place.
And some were on family leave.
That's not gross misconduct.
No, Governor Hochul's family leave, that they pushed and are so proud of. And I read that one article on the Empire Report that there was someone taking care of her baby that didn't come back because she was approved.
Yep.
Getting fired. Yep. That has been a mess. I think it's a PR disaster for Hochul. But she doesn't.
It ties in with the whole tariff stuff. She's trying to shift the attention.
Why? You're exactly right.
Yes.
If she thinks she can negotiate with Trump, I mean, she can't even negotiate with her own party in Albany.
I know. Well, and I think over the next year, you're going to see her try to curry favor in any way, shape, or form she can with her own party so that she doesn't get knocked out in the primary.
And I think there's a real likelihood of that. I mean, her favorability ratings went up a little bit the last time, but they're still very low. Yeah, I know.
How?
Well, I think they do a good job, but I think, they're not talking to enough people.
Santa or Sienna?
Sienna. Did I cut Santa? Yeah, exactly. It's more, but going back to COs, it's too bad and I'm glad that we're taking advantage of this, but it's horrible for the corrections officers who have been through so much. And you made a really great point last time on the show. They've been without pay for all this time.
Yeah.
And without insurance.
Without pay, without insurance, without benefits, and just drifting along. And my heart goes out to them because, again, I know what they go through every day in the state system. It is an incredibly difficult and demanding job. And to just have the state turn their back on them like that, to me, it's heartbreaking.
Well, because they had the audacity to say that it's not safe in prison.
Right, to stand up.
And so now she lays off 2,000 people or more when there's already a shortage.
Yes.
So now, showing what they think of public safety here in New York State, we're going to talk about early release.
Yeah, that's the solution.
Yeah,
is to let people out before they've completed the sentences that judges have imposed upon them.
It's almost, I was joking on the program yesterday that they're talking about in the budget putting more money on your bottle deposits and things like this. Can't we can't scream this enough. Can't we look at public safety a little bit?
It's a no-win for her because she's going to alienate her base. And look at how hard they're fighting just a couple of common sense parts of her budget, the discovery and the helping folks with severe mental illness. And they're fighting that tooth and nail.
Even the mask ban.
Yeah.
It looks like she's caved on that, too. Did you see that? I mean, now
she's going to cave on all of them.
She's
going to have to.
Yeah. And I mean, because here we are, the 24th of April was supposed to be due. What do you think about Carl? I'm getting on a tangent, but Carl Hasty being like, we should get paid for this. This time, huh? I mean, you can't
I think
make
you
it
already have been.
Yes, I think you're doing just fine. I think you're just. But I thought the mask ban, especially with all the anti-Semitism that we're hearing about, especially in the city, that seemed like a no-brainer to me, and that seemed like one that she could easily stand up for and then kind of cave on maybe the discovery and the things she would. But now she's, like you said, if she's caved on that, she's going to cave on all of them.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Most likely, unfortunately. Yeah. And they're still continuing to try and negotiate a budget. I had a meeting scheduled with Assemblyman Sempolinski and Assemblywoman Bailey about mental health for first responders, which we had to postpone because they're still in Albany, and they're both on that committee.
Yeah.
They're on the mental health committee.
Right. Isn't that, it's got to be frustrating because they're not a part of the negotiation.
No.
So they have to upend. I know Joe Sempolinski sent that press release out that he had to cancel or was about to cancel a town hall in Wellsville because they're always on call, but for what? At the end of the day.
Yeah, to come in and vote. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point. But do you think, they're saying maybe this week, do you think there's going to be any kind of good news coming out of the budget?
Typically, the longer it takes, the less good news there is.
Yeah, I know.
For us up here.
Yeah. And I know you've said this in the past, but you're getting pretty constant updates, aren't you, as the sheriff? Because you never know what's going to come out.
Yeah, we have, luckily, the Sheriff's Association has an attorney that's on the floor every day.
Oh, good.
And gives us updates every time there's changes so that we're not caught unawares.
Yeah, because
well, look at the changes just in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
In state law. When you go back to bail reform and forward, all of the different fundamental changes to how public safety works.
What a great point. Because when you think about bail reform, we all predicted, you specifically predicted what would happen if that's enacted.
And it happened.
And it happened.
It wasn't rocket science to figure it out.
I know. That's the worst part. And then bail reform is what we always kind of point to as the worst. But there's been so much since then. And even going back to what we were talking about with corrections officers, the HALT Act.
The HALT Act.
So it's not just on the streets where they're affecting public safety. It's inside the prisons.
Even more so inside the prisons. There's a push by a small group of state legislators to close all prisons and to have no one incarcerated, as if we live in this utopia where everyone will just see rainbows and butterflies and get along.
Wow. Will anybody be left in New York State? I mean, we're to the point of an exodus now. And, I think a lot of people kind of laugh it off and say, well, this is a New York City problem. Not at all. And it started hitting here early.
We're losing 10% of census.
Wow.
In Steuben County.
I'm telling you, it's so scary when it comes, and every time we talk about the budget, and we joke about this because you really have to watch, but you kind of wince.
You do.
Wondering what.
You just don't know what's going to get snuck in there.
And you mentioned that with closing all the prisons. Well, first of all, Governor Hochul's talking about closing more prisons, but closing all the prisons, in the past we would have laughed at that, but now with one-party rule in Albany, you better not laugh. You better take it seriously.
Yes.
That's really sadly where we're at.
It is. It's incredibly frustrating and so dangerous.
Yeah.
So incredibly dangerous.
Well, we're excited about the corrections officers, but we feel, like we said, bad that they were put in this position, but they're welcomed in Steuben County. I think they'll like it there.
Yeah, I think they'll enjoy working for us.
A lot of pressure on your pizza. You better not let them down day one. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. We got a lot to talk about. We were talking about the corrections officers. Let's talk about, you recently had a staffing analysis.
Yes.
Now, tell us what you found, what you're seeing.
So a couple months ago, I was questioned about my overtime, and the statement was made by a couple of legislators. We want to help. We want to know what you need. And I think it was legitimately
good faith
made. Yeah. So I tasked our command staff on the patrol side to let's create a staffing analysis. So what we did was we compared geographical likes. If you take Chemung County, Schuyler County, and Yates County, geographically you could fit all three into Steuben County.
Wow.
And if you look at the number of townships, number of cities, number of state police barracks, that group is very, outside of the city of Elmira, is very representative of what we have in our county. We've long known that our road patrol is under-resourced, understaffed. For a county this big, to have one deputy on at a time is just completely irresponsible.
It really.
So they put it together, and the county's divided. We divided into 3 patrol zones, which again lends itself to that comparison. So we looked at what the staffing was on those 3 counties.
Okay.
At the same time, we have 1,
Mm-hmm.
and what they came up with was during the day and in the afternoon, we should have 2 deputies per zone.
Okay.
It's not a huge amount. It's not a huge
No,
ask.
because that's still a lot of land they're
Correct.
covering.
That's still 400 square miles for 2 deputies to cover.
Yeah.
During the day, 2 per zone, afternoon, 2 per zone, and overnight, there's a 4-hour overnight block where it would be only 1 per zone, but with a supervisor.
Okay.
That overnight doesn't have currently a supervisor.
Okay.
So it would be to add the supervisors, add some deputies to that, and it would improve our response times. It would improve our ability to serve the public, and it would improve also the safety and security for the deputies on the road.
Yeah.
And, I just heard, I had a lady call me just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, right before that. She pulls into her driveway. She lives up between Wayland and Cohocton.
Okay.
Pulls into her driveway. A person is burglarizing them.
Okay.
A person that looks like they're probably high on some sort of substance. Okay. She's in her van with her 4 kids. She calls 911 30 minutes before law enforcement arrives. Wow. If we're looking to attract people into Steuben County, that's not what we need.
That's not going to do it.
Nobody's going to move here if there's no public safety. And this is the same thing we went through with EMS. And it's time for the county to invest in public safety.
Yeah.
So we did our staffing analysis. Obviously, nothing comes free.
No.
So I started looking at the budget and looking at overall numbers. I had no idea. Now, I've worked for the county for 12 years.
Right.
I had no idea that the entire countywide budget is $260 million. That's 260 with 6 zeros.
Wow.
Our road patrol is only 2% of that, of the entire county budget.
Okay.
It's only 2% of the entire county budget. And so we when we did our staffing analysis, it's a significant add, but phase it in over 4 or 5 years.
Sure.
So that the budget can handle it. It doesn't negatively affect the tax rates. Mm-hmm. But I looked at it, I said, if it went straight to the tax rates for a median family, what would it cost?
Yeah, right.
To add
that's
4 deputies a year for 4 years.
Right.
And it would, unless my math is completely crazy, it would work out for a median family at 2 cents a day.
Wow. Yeah.
Less than $8 a year.
Yeah. You sound like one of those infomercials.
I know. That's what I feel
less than
like.
a cup of coffee.
Less than a cup of, not even a cup of coffee, less than the creamer in your coffee,
kidding.
And so it's incredibly doable when we look at how much the county pays for other services. It's not a big ask. And, in 2019, when the centralized arraignment court first came into play, Corning and Hornell were not going to play. They weren't going to transport their people to Bath for one court.
Right.
They were going to force the county basically to have 3 centralized courts twice a day, every day.
Wow.
And have to pay for the attorneys to attend those.
Right.
It was going to be $1 million a year just in attorney fees. We came up at that time. I proposed, let's add 5 deputies and have them transport both Corning and Hornell's detainees to Bath for half the price.
Sure.
Because we could do it for $500,000, and again, it was a delay. It was 2 now, 2 in 6 months, and then 1 more the following year. And since that time, we've been saving the county at least $500,000 a year.
That's right there.
Well, it's 6 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. pay it back, right?
Yes. Well, and not to mention we did $1.2 million in grants last year.
Oh yeah.
Right now we have today. The first 3 days of this week was training. Through a grant, we got a records management system for every police department in the county, including us.
Yeah.
On a grant.
Yeah.
So no additional cost to the county, and that was almost $1 million.
Right.
So let's continue to invest in success.
Mm-hmm.
And continue to make our folks safer. That was the push of it.
And I know when we talked last time, it's also the budget, $260 million, by the way. It's sanity. But we talked about never really properly budgeting for you anyway.
Correct.
That was a major issue and kind of what
was
started this whole
It was a
analysis.
smoke and mirrors thing.
Yeah. Wow, $260 million.
So let's have an honest look at what our constituents want.
Yeah.
And
because 30 minutes is unacceptable, really, for a scenario like that. We've talked about it in the past.
That's not unusual.
No, and you've got the governor and others pushing for these kind of gun laws, and I know we've talked about this way in the past when we were talking about the SAFE Act. But in a rural area, New York City, someone might be there quickly.
Well, even here in the city of Corning,
sure,
you're in
quickly.
5 minutes.
Yeah, but when you're talking, you're in the boondocks, as they say, and someone's breaking in your door, you want to have protection because 30 minutes would seem like more than a lifetime.
Yes.
It could be a lifetime.
It could be several lifetimes.
Yeah. So what happens when you get that call and you're half that whole district away? I mean, you just buckle up and try to make it there as fast as possible?
Well, I remember when Trooper Clark was murdered up on Welch Road.
Right.
The closest responding unit we had was in Hornell. And he still made it here in 20 minutes. So, and so when you're looking at that, it's a life or death call.
Yeah.
They're going to try and get here as fast as they possibly can, but they're putting themselves at risk. They're putting the public at risk by driving that fast.
Yeah.
And it's just a bad situation. It's an irresponsible situation that can easily be rectified, and that's what we're moving towards.
What's the next step in this? To get approval, things like that? Do you see there being a taste for this at the county level?
I do. Okay. I do. I've had several legislators reach out to me and say this is reasonable, and it's time. Yeah. So we'll see what comes in the budget this coming year.
Yeah.
It's almost budget time already for the county.
Unbelievable.
And that's why we did the presentation when we did, so that it could be budgeted for. And we'll see, when I submit my budget, I don't get to submit numbers for payroll or for a number of positions.
Okay, all right.
I recommend, and then it goes to the legislature and it comes back and I get what I get.
Okay.
So it's my hopes that during the budget process, folks pay attention.
Sure.
And demand that we start to correct this situation.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with 206. I'm tongue-tied here. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Market Street. In that studio, we have Sheriff Jim Allard. All right, couple comments from viewers. Here we go. According to state statistics, New York State has lost 630,000 people since 2020. Number one state in losing people.
Yeah.
That's not really a question. That's just a very poignant statement.
Well, how many times you talk to retirees that are moving south and not coming back?
I'm not exaggerating. It's happened so often. So this show's a little over 2 years. I get comments a lot that are saying, "Sarah, you love the show, but..." Well, they don't all say that. But I love the show, but we're leaving. We can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, but that happened in radio too. It's just a mass exodus, and there's all those polls that find that most people in New York State, the majority, have a 5-year plan to leave New York State.
Yes.
Who can blame them? Public safety, like we talked about, taxes, et cetera, et cetera. This one is a good one. We get this every time, and I had it on my list. Asks Jim about the certification for operating a motorboat. Thanks, from Farmer John. Well, thank you, Farmer John. So yes, that's something that we've been trying to hit on here because people don't realize.
Yeah. So right now, if you're operating a motorized vessel in the navigable waterway, you must have your boater safety.
Yeah.
As of the first of the year. There's no age limit in between, experience limit. You must have boater safety, or if you have the Coast Guard squadron certification, any of that exceeds it, you're okay.
Okay.
And if you had it years ago and you don't know where it is, you can go on the New York State Parks and Recreation website and you can apply to get a new one based on your name, date of birth, etc. And they have those records, and I think it costs you $10, but they'll send you a new one.
But I've been driving a boat since I was a child. It can't pertain to me. Is that what everybody says?
That's but it does.
Simple as that. You guys have made it really easy that they can. What is it? Once a month?
Every month since a year ago. We've been doing a class every month at the sheriff's office.
Okay.
We're going to continue doing that all summer throughout this year. We actually stopped doing our pistol permit safety courses and focus specifically on boater safety.
Have they been real crowded now that the weather's changed?
Yeah,
because
that's what
packed. You should have done it in January when you were bored, but you don't think about it until the weather changes. So thank you.
And we can only do, I think it's 30 at a time.
Okay.
And it's not because we can't fit more. That's what the state puts on as a requirement. So yeah, call my office, get on 607-622-3911. Talk to Kim. She'll put you on the list.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that you get in.
A couple of quick things I wanted to mention. I was reading your newsletter. You know, I always like your newsletter.
Yes, sir.
And I noticed Frankly Speaking was in there. I just want to say, thank you. I had to autograph people's copies.
I'm sure
it became
you did.
quite a headache.
Yeah.
But I brought this up on the program because you brought it to my attention. But you know more about it. Tell us about Terry Cole.
Oh, this is the coolest thing,
isn't it? How did this go? We reported on it early, but I haven't heard anywhere else.
Yeah, I know. I don't think he's been through all of his confirmation.
Is that what it is? Okay, so he's.
But I know I got the FBI interviewed several folks for his background.
Okay,
I was one of them.
Oh yeah,
and Terry grew up here, up on 2nd or 3rd Street, and graduate of East High.
Yeah.
He and his brother Jeff were both lacrosse standouts, and Terry went through the local police academy with his brother Jeff. Brother Jeff went to Ithaca Police Department, had a full career there, retired as a lieutenant.
Okay.
Terry went the federal route and went into the DEA and did, I think, 23 years in the DEA, retired, and then the state of Virginia picked him up as their public safety director.
Oh, wow.
He's a very, very qualified, incredibly intelligent, very serious individual. He got picked up by the state of Virginia, and then when President Trump came in, he got tapped to run the DEA as a person with boots on the ground experience.
Yeah,
because he had been stationed in Colombia during the cocaine wars.
Wow. He
had been stationed in Afghanistan during all of the combat situation over there. He's been on the Mexican border. He has tremendous experience. I think he'll do a fantastic job as the DEA person in charge, the administrator. But how cool is it that he's right from here in Corning?
Yeah. And no one knows that was. I'm super excited about it. Even though he did go to East, I don't even hold it against him. I made that joke. I know I made that joke already. But no, that's fantastic. What was it like?
Viking joke.
I know. That's funny. What was it like being interviewed by the FBI about him?
It was funny because I work with the FBI a lot in what we do. We do a lot of concurrent investigations. So the agent is one of the local agents. I got to ask you some questions, Jim. Kind of that thing.
Oh, that's great.
But it was pretty in depth. It was pretty serious.
Well, just being nominated is an honor. So I hope the process goes quickly.
Yep, I do too.
So congratulations.
I wrote a letter of recommendation for him, and our Steuben County Chiefs of Police group voted to write a letter of endorsement too.
Oh, that's great. So I just saw that in the newsletter. I wanted to make a big deal out of it because, again, I just haven't heard anybody else talking about this.
When's the last time a person from Steuben County's been in a cabinet level post?
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, we've actually looked up with some with Lee Zeldin being from New York. That was exciting, and Lee Stefanik was heartbreaking.
Yeah, but there may be some good things in the future.
Sure. I'm sure.
I hope.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I would love to watch that debate.
Yeah.
That would make my day.
I would make that. For people that don't know, there is a rumor that she might be thinking about running for governor. That's why I thought she'd be so good at the UN, because after you saw what she did to those college deans, professors, and presidents.
Yep.
Then you think about her in the UN, how great that would have been. But I mean, I think it's great. We were talking about this with Joe Sempolinski. She took one for the team.
She did.
At the end of the day, she did what was right for the party, but more importantly, what was right for the country and more for Trump's agenda. So that was a really weird side tangent I took there. That's the kind of show. That's
what we do.
That's the kind of analysis that you get on Frankly Speaking. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. I love that roof cam. We have had such nice weather.
It is. It's gorgeous.
Beautiful. Okay, let's talk a couple other related issues, but I'm not going to even try to segue. Okay, 'cause I've been trying to think in my brain how we can segue a little bit here. But let's talk about the 911. There's what would you call it? Statewide convention?
Yeah, it's a statewide convention for the 911 coordinators. It's right here at the Radisson this week. Oh. I think today is their final day. I went down and presented yesterday to them about the wellness center we're creating at the sheriff's camp, and that was very well received. But this is the third time in the history of the 911 coordinators group here in New York State that they've been to Corning and held their conference here, and they love Market Street.
Oh, yeah, being that close to Market Street, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. How many would you say are there?
When I was there, I would guess there were close to 100 people in the room.
You know, it's interesting because I see the same people every day, you know, in this window because I'm in the zoo, that you every once in a while you'll notice like professionals or something like that that you don't always see. And you're like,
where's that from?
Yeah, so now it's nice to know. It's nice to know that they're 911 coordinators. But you mentioned the wellness center, and we can't. I want to bring this up on the program as much as possible because this is such an amazing thing that is happening. Tell us about it for those that aren't aware.
Sure. So on Keuka Lake on the bluff, just south of Keuka College, the Sheriff's Institute, New York State Sheriff's Institute, owns a summer camp, which is 1,000 foot of frontage, 32 acres of woodland behind it. And for 6 weeks a year, we bring in underprivileged children from all over the state and give them an opportunity at a vacation that they would not have. But it's unplugged, no electronic devices. Every waking moment is outside.
Wow. And how do kids handle that?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
they do. They really do. They're boating. They're playing games. They'll watch a movie or two if it's raining, but as a group.
Yeah.
And they sail, they kayak, they paddleboard. They do all of these things right there on Keuka Lake. And we send usually a dozen a year from Steuben County. Okay. Our school resource officers nominate kids to go, and that's how we choose them, and the parents have to sign off, but it's completely free to the parents. And they go, and actually we did a clothing drive last year for it because a lot of kids from downstate show up with just what they have on.
Oh, sure.
And so we do a clothing drive every year so that there's extra clothing up there for those kids. But the rest of the year it sits vacant. And
which is amazing.
It is, because it's so beautiful and so useful.
And it's kind of shocking that this hasn't been thought of before, or at least not pursued before, because that's a lot of time not being used.
Yes. So a group of us got together and said, wellness is so important right now, officer wellness. You know, all of the data shows you that the number one leading cause of death for a law enforcement officer is suicide.
Right.
Much more than line of duty death. And the average age of life expectancy for law enforcement officer right now is 58. Wow. So I'm happy. I'm on the good side of that.
On the good side of it.
But and we look at the average time in retirement is less than 3 years. So, and a lot of that is driven by suicide. Right. So what can we do to affect that? We train with our pistols. We train on how we drive. We don't train on how to keep ourselves mentally and emotionally safe. Mm-hmm. So we've teamed up with the Mental Health Association of New York State and a variety of, it's New York State Department of Homeland Security, Bureau of EMS, FASNY, the fire folks, the volunteer fire folks, the chiefs of police, you name it, we've teamed up with them to create a thought process and a think tank on how we can generate useful skill building, but also have a place that's safe, that someone can go unplug for 3 to 5 days for free.
Right.
Get the training they need, enjoy the outside, clear their head, and come back to work and make better decisions.
Yeah.
So we embarked on this, and Sheriff Baxter in Monroe County has been instrumental in that. If we're going to do this, let's do it right.
Right.
So we hired a fundraising team, and they're raising funds to build basically it's like a convention center on the camp with a dorm style housing next to it which we call the Heroes Cottage, and where people can stay, come over here, get whatever skill building class they particularly need, and then the rest of the day enjoy nature, and then go back hopefully to your agency in a better frame of mind. So we're in the fundraising portion of that now, where we're hitting the big companies, all of the folks that do bequeathments, and then we're going to do our local campaigns where we ask folks to support it.
How's it been going so far, fundraising? It
really
seems like
good.
everybody, because everybody would want to be a part of this, it seems like.
It is, and it's unique. It's going to be the only one in the Northeast that I'm aware of. The closest one that I found to what we're going to do is in Kentucky.
Okay.
If we want to send somebody to, and that's a large part of it, is for these folks to get treatment, first responders to get treatment, it has to be from a culturally competent provider, clinician.
Sure.
And finding that can be very, very difficult because most of them are full.
Yeah.
And aren't taking anybody new.
Yeah.
When I went to counseling, believe it or not, I did have a little depression a year and a half or so ago.
What is that right? A year and a half. Let me
I had
get
to
my
go
calendar.
as far away as Binghamton.
Did you really?
To find somebody culturally competent to meet with. And I met with them a few times, and I'm very glad that I did. But there's nobody local that you can just drop in and see. So we want to be able to create this network of culturally competent clinicians that we can use at the camp.
But it seems like when they see that view, they'd be knocking down your door.
Right.
They'll sign on to that job,
Yeah.
I think, right? Find the time to talk with everybody.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing, and it's going very, very well. And like I say, we're still in the corporate level fundraising right now, but soon we'll be out to the you and me level fundraising.
Well, I know because last time we talked about it, people said they want to know as soon as that becomes a possibility because everybody wants to be. What's the time frame even after the fundraising?
We're going to break ground in August.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
August, we're breaking ground on these two buildings.
Yeah. That's great.
Yep.
Well, we got to take our last break of the show, and then we're going to wrap things up. So get your last-minute questions in for the sheriff. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We are back. That is a Frankly Speaking roof cam brought to our friends by Boss Security. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are in the Frankly Speaking studio, the Hesselsons Frankly Speaking studio. And in that studio is Sheriff Allard. We've got a couple last-minute questions to wrap up on. One thing, we've been mentioning this on the show, and it's really important to remind people that Saturday is National Prescription Drug Takeback Day. What is Steuben County doing for that?
So at the up at our office, at the sheriff's office, the public safety building, we're going to have 2 deputies, and we team up with the Prevention Coalition each year, and they send some folks over. And if you pull in and you have bags of unused medication in your back seat, our deputies will go out and recover them from you.
Okay.
And we'll take them and we'll make sure that they get disposed of by the DEA up in Rochester.
And this is pretty successful each year, right?
Yes. Yeah, we get hundreds of pounds of drugs every year doing this.
And it serves an important purpose, not just because you shouldn't be flushing it down the toilet or
Right.
something, but also people don't realize that, heaven forbid, you have a family member or a loved one that is maybe addicted. They find this, or younger person, and then there's obviously the threats of overdose and things like that. So it serves
burglary too.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, how many instances have we heard of someone trying to break in and steal prescription medication? So get rid of the expired medication or the medication that I guess you don't want. Is that the right term? But it's from 10 till 2 this Saturday at the Steuben County Sheriff's Office. Okay, before we go, and I happen to see that announcement on that, I've got and I don't know who does it behind the scenes, but kudos on your app.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know there was an app. Someone brought it to my attention because somebody we might have known might be in the jail, and they said check out this app, and I didn't know if it was official, but it is.
Yeah.
How long have you had that?
Oh gosh, 3 years I think.
Okay. Well,
and we get.
I'm always current here, Jim. I always like to. I do my research.
So one of the reasons we got the app is folks can. Use the app to schedule their visitation in the jail.
Yeah.
They can use the app to put money in their loved one's account at the jail, and also they can see who's in the jail.
Yeah.
And that's primarily what it gets used for, but it also has all of our press releases and all of our information that we put out to the public is on that app. You get a ding on your phone when something new comes out, and you can view it there. You don't have to wait until you're scrolling on social media.
Right.
So it's and it also lists all the sex offenders.
I saw that
in the county. So it's a pretty cool thing. We got involved in that, like I say, a few years ago, and that's where our companion website is from that also. But it just makes it easier for folks to navigate things with the jail.
Yeah.
But also you can look.
You can be nosy.
Well, yeah, you can look and see if your neighbor has a warrant.
Right.
If your neighbor's a sex offender.
Right.
If your neighbor's kid is in jail again.
Right.
You can look and see that on the app.
Yeah. No, I was really impressed with it because you go to some of these apps that people design and then they haven't been updated. You look 6 months ago was the last update. You're constantly updated.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the company is big on that. Actually, they wanted us to. I did a promo for them a year ago because I think we get like 60,000 hits a month.
I believe
on
it.
that app.
Yeah.
And it's one of the leading ones that the company has. So, and almost every county has it now, and it's nationwide. But all of the information they get as far as who's in our jail doesn't come from us. It comes right from booking.
Oh, okay.
And it goes through the state, through the victim notification process. And you can do that too. You can sign up on the app. If someone who has committed a crime against you is in our jail, you can put in to be notified anytime that person leaves custody, moves custody,
that's great,
etc.
Because we think when we going back full circle when we're talking about bail reform and things like that, and the public safety issues. There's been a lot of victims that didn't need to be victims. We say that a lot. So now if you know someone was in there and they're out, you could be
You're going to get an email notification.
Yeah.
You can sign up for that.
Yeah. I would highly recommend it. I would say just make sure it's Steuben County, New York, not Indiana. I think
Correct.
It's in there. Yeah.
Yes.
I saw them both come up. And,
Yes, they do.
But if you want to know what's going on in Indiana, fine with that. But that does it for today. Wow, that went quick. I think we covered everything.
It always goes quick.
I know. There's so much to talk about. I was going to ask what your prediction on the New York State budget is, but we know it's not going to make April 1st.
My prediction is big.
Yeah.
Large.
I know. I don't know. They always throw something new in, but I can't. I like how Joe Sempolinski says it, $250 billion.
Yeah.
Think of that.
Yeah, that's real money, as they say.
And it's nice that Hochul's now attacking Trump because that should help us with the Fed money that we depend on in that budget.
Correct.
Unbelievable. Well, we can talk about it some other time. All right. Thanks for joining us this morning. All right. We'll talk to you again soon. We'll be back tomorrow with Frankly Speaking. Our guest, Pam Walker. She is the candidate for Corning mayor. That is on tomorrow's program, so get your questions in. And join us every weekday morning for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Look forward to it already.